Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents Podcast, where we talk about commercial real estate investing, get into a lot of mindset, financial independence, among other topics. And I'm just super excited today. I'm very humbled and blessed that I have good buddy, Mr. Juan Vargas. Juan, how's it going, brother?
Hey, it's my pleasure to be on your show, Abel. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and just to share my knowledge, my experience. Anything that I can help out with, I'm here. So thank you again.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I actually have met Juan in the real estate seminar, the boot camp type of things that we were in, and but really, for the listeners, I think hopefully you'll get this. I listened to a number of Juan's shows, his interviews and things like that. And I had this connection. I go, oh, I know Juan, I know who he is, I know he's about, and I hadn't even shook his hand yet. So I was like, hey man, I loved your story. I loved your, just a little bit about your background. And so I do want to get into, a little bit of your backstory, but man, I'm excited to have you on. And I think you're going to bring a lot of value to the listeners today. So, let's just jump right in. Juan is he's the founder of GenWealth Capital Group. He oversees and manages. So assets under management, if that term is kind of new to you, AUM, 700 doors. And when we say doors, we're literally talking about apartment complexes. He's an owner and manager of those 700 doors. And those are in Houston, Dallas, Phoenix. So he's an accomplished investor. He's also, has a part ownership in another 600 doors as a general partner, and also a limited partner or a passive investor, his money running along in another individual's deals or other team members' deals, another 1,000 doors. So 2,000 plus total invested in one shape, form, or fashion. So he is absolutely crushing it in the multifamily space. And man, happy to have you on, and thanks for your time. Why don't let me turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe how you got started, and we'll come back to what you're doing today.
Yeah, for sure. No, hey, once again, thank you very much for the opportunity. So I guess it all started whenever, I was working at BMW. So BMW, the car manufacturer, BMW, and I was there. I enjoyed my time there, but it's a 9 to 5, kind of grind, right? And the drawback with those kind of jobs is, the better you become at that position, at that skill set position, then it kind of becomes a little bit of a trap, and so I found myself, kind of going through a little bit of a trap. And so I looked for ways to create, passive income. And, when I was searching, real estate kept being one of the top searches for me, and so I started looking more into real estate. I got into single family, and, that's how I got my jump into real estate. And then, in a house that I had as a rental, my tenant left. And whenever he left, he was gone for, a little bit over a month. But during that period, I was the one that had to pay for all the expenses, the mortgage, the utilities, you name it, right? Any kind of repairs. So any kind of money that I had in a different account was kind of gone, right? Because it's I had to pay for all these repairs. And I'm like, man, this kind of sucks, man, because you have a rental house and it's supposed to be a good business, and it is a good business, right? But you have to have scale, right? And so I thought about it. I was like, man, if I want that scale, then I have to get to 40, 50 houses. And by the time I get to that number, I'm going to be, really old. And it's then it kind of defeats the purpose, right? I want to enjoy my time now, right? And have that more of that freedom and that flexibility now, not whenever I'm 70 or 80. And so I just started looking for different ways, and something in real estate still, and multifamily was that one piece that made the most sense for me. And I started researching a little bit more and understanding the asset class a little bit more, and 6 months later or so, I was able to get into the first multifamily property. Yeah. And so ever since then, I didn't look back into single family. It's just all multifamily from that point.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And if you want to hear even more about it, go check out some of those other podcasts, but down to the point of like, hey, you finally hitting that grind and realizing there's a better way. And then, really just making a big mindset shift. Right. So I think I resonated with the BMW part when I first heard it. I worked at BMW.
Oh, really?
I worked at a dealership where we sold BMW in Portland and Corpus Christi. And I go, okay, I can relate to this guy. And
cool.
And I heard you, we did single family also. So we did, 10 years of single family before, and that was kind of how we partnered on. And then you were on a DJE podcast with my partners, Devin, and I had already done some deals, and I go, I like Juan. He's the man. So anyways.
Awesome.
Thanks
that's pretty cool.
Joining, brother. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's very cool. Yeah.
So tell us, the shift, the move over, right? There's probably a lot of people that are on our show today that are either they want to be passive investors, they're full-time, W-2 employees, and they're trying to figure out, well, shoot, how do I invest in it? Just the same way, you are searching and seeking. A lot of people don't like the job, don't like the situation. They're searching for something better. They're hungry for it. So you found it. Those same people that you're speaking to, just like you, or potentially someone who's already investing and they know, hey, I want to go do exactly what Juan's doing. I want to go do, what other multifamily syndicators are doing. Give us some of your mindset, those things that you had to overcome yourself to say, I'm going to move in, and then maybe like one or two tactical steps that you took beyond the mindset.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It certainly is a mindset shift or a mindset adaptation, or adoption, I could say, because it's definitely a big jump, right? You're going from single family homes that are maybe $100,000 to $200,000, and it makes sense, right? It's simple to understand, and then you go into a property where it's a lot more zeros behind it, right? So that in itself is a big mindset shift. And for me, I learned about the business, and it just made a lot of sense. There's income, there's expenses, there's debt service. If there's anything left after that, then the thing is cash flowing, right? And I was like, well, there's not too much to this, right? The only thing about it is that it takes more capital to get into some of these deals, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where you have to have that bigger mindset shift as well. And so, I learned about the business, and I was able to take action. I was like, okay, I know enough to be able to do something. I need to be able to do it now, right? Because you're never going to know everything. That's the thing, right? You're never going to know everything. You have to be willing to take action and take that risk, right? And so, it's just about learning enough and then pulling the trigger. That's what it comes down to, right? And I think there's many people that can relate to maybe you're learning, and then 2 years later you're still learning because you feel like you don't know it all. But trust me, you're never going to know it all. And we're learning in this business every day. I'm sure you are learning so many different things on a daily basis as I am, right? And so, if I would have waited, I still wouldn't have been in the business. You see what I'm saying? And so I think it's just learning enough, and then pulling the trigger, right? And for those other people that are out there that are working full time, understand, what your skill set is, understand your financial position, situation, and understand that what you can bring to the table, what you can do. And if you're involved and you're a high income earner, then maybe doing this on an active, from an active position is not the right choice for you. Maybe doing it passively is the right thing for you. If you have a little bit more flexibility, more time, you have access to deals and access to brokers, then doing this active probably makes sense to you, right? So ultimately people have to understand what's best for them, understand their situation, understand their goals, their family situation, because it's not an easy thing either, right? Making some of these life-changing situations and decisions, they're huge, right? So you have to make sure that you align yourself with what your goals are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are very good steps, right? So tell us about your personal situation, family, children, maybe at the time, and lead us into today. Like, what was your family life then, and what's it like now in the
Yeah.
business?
For sure, for sure. So at that time, I had same thing. I had 3 boys. Whenever I got into the business of multifamily,
What age group were they? Right when you were
sure.
like trying to do your first deal, your multifamily deal. Sorry.
Yeah. So I want to say maybe my oldest was 8, 9 years old, something like that. And then the next one maybe was like 4-ish, something like that. And maybe the little one was maybe like 1.
Yeah.
And so it's like I said, I made the jump from working full time at W2 to going into the business, and this is with me being married and having 3 kids, and you're having a mortgage and all these
Real
expenses,
responsibilities. You're like, man, I've absolutely have to have success to make that work for your family.
Exactly. And I think if you have that mindset, we're talking about mindset right now, right? If you have that mindset of, I don't have a choice, right? It's success or success, right? If you have to have that from that viewpoint, because if you give yourself any break, then you're going to give yourself excuses. And if you give yourself excuses, then it's going to be really hard for you to accomplish anything, right? So you have to, pull the trigger. And for me, like I said, whenever I left my W2, that was my form of pulling the trigger and you kind of burning the ship, right? I can't go back. I'm on this island, and this is a new place for me, and I'm not going back, right? So that ship is burned behind me, and so that's kind of the mindset, the viewpoint that people have to take. Depending on what your situation is, right? Like if you're going to be active, that's the way you got to take it. Active, passive, you can take a little bit more of a different approach, right? It's kind of like dipping your toe a little bit and taking it from there, right?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So when you go and you make the decision, I think I heard that one, and then go all in if you're an active investor, because you want to be able to find a deal, raise capital as quickly as possible, and then go execute and then manage it. And that conversion over from your W-2 job, no one's telling you to clock in at a certain time. No one's telling you that you have to leave or come in at, Monday through Friday. It's all up to you and, your own, willingness to kind of persevere. Right. So that's
you're
the
100% on that
part of it.
You're 100% about that. And, it definitely is a big shift, right? Because, I think the majority of folks out there are, employees of some way, shape or form. Right. And so we're going to work, whether you're, either you're working at home or you're driving to work, but either way you have to clock in. Right. So there's always somebody kind of looking over your shoulder, hey, keeping you accountable. Right. But if you're an entrepreneur, it's like, there's nobody, tapping your shoulder and saying, hey, you need to do this or you need to do that. It's all on your own, right? So time management is where it's at, right? So putting things on your calendar, make sure you're scheduling things, make sure you're on point and you're taking care of business, right? Every day's got to be like that, right? Sure, there's a little bit more flexibility, but there's more responsibility on your shoulders that you got to get things done. You're exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay, well let's fast forward a little bit, right? For I think we know the mindset. Now your path to actually getting your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, how did it change from your first deal to what you're doing today? Maybe just talk to us a little bit about, deal number 1, 2, 3, and then, what you're doing today. How's that changed? For sure.
So deal number 1 was before I even knew about syndication, right? I think I had maybe heard the term once or twice, but deal number 1 was something that I found off market, that I did a direct mail because brokers weren't necessarily sending me the right deals or like that. So I had to take pretty much matters in my own hands and mail out, literally handwritten letters, send them out to the owners. Usually mom and pop owners, and I got some good feedback and some good response around those letters, and I was able to take down the first deal, right? And I had to go through a bank loan because it was too small for an agency loan. Mm-hmm. Typically for agency, they want a loan amount to be $1 million or more. And so the loan amount for this one was going to be under $1 million. And so that was a good little learning curve right there. As I proceeded and progressed from that deal, I got into larger deals, right? So that was, working with other sponsors to learn the business a little bit more and provide value to them in other ways. And then, be able to partake in a small piece of the GP, right? And then, in addition to that, I did some syndications or some passive investing rather. And, just to learn a little bit more still, right, about, these are accomplished syndicators. Let me see how they're doing the reports. Let me see, kind of look behind the curtain, if you will, to what they're doing, right? Why they're making this decision, why they're making that decision, and what their capex is looking like, and those type of things, right? You're not going to see hands-on, obviously, right? But you'll be able to look a little bit better into under the hood or behind the curtain, how they're doing things, right? And so that was some of the next steps, and from that point, it's about building relationships, with other people as well, right? You have to kind of build your track record before people can, take you a little bit more seriously, right? And I was continuing to, build relationships with people, and that's how I was able to get to my next level, and progress even further, which was, acquiring my own deals, right? And from that viewpoint, I was able to partner with guys that are also successful in the business, and we're able to make a good team. And then in addition to that, I was able to raise capital from investors that maybe the first time or the second time wouldn't have invested with me, but third, fourth, fifth, sixth time they will, right? Yeah. So it's just a progression, right? Keeping out there and just helping others any way you can, and adding value. So I think as it is today, that's what we continue to do, and try to do the best we can, right? To earn the trust of investors and earn the trust of potential partners.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. That's a great progression, very valuable, because you've seen it through a lot of different lenses, right? And you understand, small deal, medium-sized deal, probably bigger deal, your own JV syndication, and all the way through it. So how big was how many doors was your first deal and your JV deal? Or those first couple of deals, how big were they?
Yeah. So the first deal was a 32 unit.
Yep.
And that was the one that, it wasn't myself, all by myself. I found it and, oversaw, the deal. And we brought in a partner for that deal. And so we took that one down. The next one I was able to get in and partner with a couple guys, and it was a 200 plus unit deal. And I believe the third one was, also like a 200 plus, and then I started doing some passive investing, and that ranged from 300 units to 100 units, 200 units, and you name it, right?
Yeah.
And just took it from there to ours.
What was the big aha moment for you from even the 32 finding it on your own to going to the JV 200 unit, which is a big jump? What was it that said, hey, I can do this, or I can absolutely make this happen?
Yeah. So the 32 unit, that was something that, that was a good little learning, path, right? Yeah. Because as I mentioned earlier, I had a partner in it, but it was a lot of things that, we had to make decisions on. And, the good thing about doing that way was that I had no investors in the deal. So it was like, hey, if I'm not doing well, then that's because of me. But if I'm doing well, then that's because, we're doing well. Right. And so, from that viewpoint, I just felt that, there's other opportunities and to get into the larger deals. And, it's just a mindset shift, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just numbers, right? It's a little bit more zeros. And sure, there's that, but, it works the same. And actually larger deals, it's even easier, really. The most difficult part with a larger deals is that there's a larger equity raise, right? But everything else is easier because it's the same exact process. And you're able to have, a team on site, and you're able to have, usually better financing and better terms. And, it just, you get the scale, right? The scalability, and, something that you can't get with a smaller deal. And so it just made sense to go larger and not necessarily look back. Right. So that's exactly what we did.
Got it. Yeah. And, every time you take a different action, every time you do another deal, every time you take, either analyze another property, raise capital for something, or take something down, it just all becomes a little bit easier every single cycle. And there's different learnings, obviously, and different obstacles and challenges, but the actual motion, it's like, oh yeah, I've been here. I've had the display, and we're going to keep going. Right. So
You're right. I mean, that's like anything else, right? Like, you maybe you get a new job, right? You're working for somebody, and it's a totally different career. Once the first day, you're going to be really nervous, right? Like, what are people going to think about you? What are you going to be doing? What if you don't do things right? And then, it's going to be like that pretty much the first week or so, right? But then you start getting a little bit more calm. You're not as nervous, and then, you start getting more comfortable, and you start getting into the routine, and you're 100% right. And it's the same thing with this business and any other business, a lot of it is repetition, but a lot of it is new things, right? That you get to see. But you're right. It does get a little bit easier the longer you're in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard, and thank you. That's absolutely, I think everything you shared so far is just some really good, insight for people to understand how in the world does somebody go from, working, a completely different industry to owning a couple thousand doors as an investor, as a sponsor, general partner, JV person. So this is really good. Now, for somebody that's trying to figure out, hey, I know I'm going to do this for sure. I want to be an investor, and I've consumed a bunch of podcasts, and I've done that, and I started going to education, and I'm ready to take action. I need to move forward. I need to get that first deal done. It's super hard to get deal flow without experience. You leveraged, very quickly, hey, this is my personal experience, and then moved over. Give that advice for somebody that's in that situation. I'm ready to go, want to move forward, let's go. But man, I don't have a lick of experience on paper. How's a broker going to take me seriously? How do I get into deal flow? You mentioned mailers, just any of this insight around the world. I think that'd be great.
Yeah. So that's a very good question. So I would say that the first thing is, be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself in your situation, right? Because not everybody can do this job, right? And the reason why I say that is because if you're a high income earner and you're making, 400, 500, 600,000 as a doctor, as an attorney, or, whatever that you have, you're a business owner, it's not going to make financial sense for you to jump into this and try to do this actively and just leave what you're doing, right? So, in that situation, I think it would make more sense if you invested passively, right? You did something like that, right? So that's number one. If you are ready to make a change, and maybe you're not in that same group of people where you're a high income earner or whatever, and you want to make a career change, then okay, everybody can bring something to the table, right? If you want to be active, you can bring something to the table, right? And there's multiple things that you can bring to the table, right? It's not one size fits all, right? You maybe have you're good with numbers, right? So you're excellent with underwriting, right? That's something that you can help do, right? You can say, hey, any deals you have, send them my way. I will underwrite them for you, and then I will tell you the ones that make the most sense. Whatever, just tell me your criteria, what you're looking for, and then I will take care of that for you, right? Underwriting, that's one way. Maybe you have relationships with brokers, or a bunch of owners or whatever. You can bring that kind of experience, and you can bring the deal flow. Maybe that's what it is, right? You don't have to necessarily have the experience. But if you know somebody in the business, or if you know of a deal, then that's another way. Maybe you're a lender. I mean, I don't know. You could be a lender, right? And maybe say, hey, look, I can bring the lending to the table. That's 70-80%, and get it at this rate or whatever, and bring that to the table. Maybe you're able to raise capital, right? That's another way. Maybe you have a good network of people around you, and they're all interested in investing, and maybe that's what you could take care of, right? And you can partner that way, right? There's multiple ways. So you have to, at the end of the day, find out what you're good at. Maybe you're a property manager before, right? You had the property management experience. And so guess what you're going to be good at? You're going to be good at asset management, So maybe that's one way that you can help, the team, and say, hey, look, I'm good at this area. I'm not going to help you with asset management. Any help that you need, I got you. I can understand the numbers. I can understand what's going on at the property level, because what we see as owners, and what happens at the property, sometimes they're a little bit different, right? And so sometimes it's not as transparent from the property level to the ownership, and you as an owner have to find that out, and you have to extract that, right? You have to get that from the team on site, right? But if you're a property manager, then you can see through the lines, and you can see, hey, look, you guys are not doing this. You need to be focusing on this and not that. So there's a lot of different things that somebody can bring to the table, right? So just figure out what it is that you're good at, and you can bring to the table one more thing. I mean, and there's more to this that I can think of really right now. But what if you have a construction company, and you can bring, maybe construction and say, hey, look, I'll do all the work. I'll be happy to be a part of the deal, but I'll do all this work at this cost. It's not going to cost you anything. I'll take care of these costs, whatever, right? So, I mean, there's multiple ways, right? So I think, find out your position, maybe you have connections and try to bring something to the table. And I think everybody can bring something, right? And so that's the beauty of this business, is that it's usually a teamwork, team effort. And it's not, there's no I in team. So that's what I would say on that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. How do you, so now from your perspective, someone brings you some of this expertise. Somebody's pretty good at raising capital. Someone's pretty good at construction management, like you're saying, and they approach you, hey, my name's Abel. It's nice to meet you, Juan. This is what I do. Here's what I'm good at. How do you personally vet those new partners out? And then how do you make a decision on, people that you want to move forward? And this one's the questions for me. So that's a very good point. I think number one for me, the most important thing for me is the relationship, right? Understand the from a personal standpoint. I think for me, the most important thing is understand the person, right? What kind of person they are, right? Because they might not have all the experience right now, but guess what? If they're a good person, like inside and out, then they can gain that experience quickly, right? What time, you'll have that, but that person doesn't change, right? That person inside doesn't change. It actually gets better, right? But if you have a person that's not a good person, like inside and out, they have all this experience, and you work together and you find out that this person like really is not going to cut it because his personality or his morals or whatever, then it's just not going to work. So for me, it's understanding who that person is. Everybody's in a different situation, as you mentioned, but just understanding that this person has the right characteristics that you want to have to form a good partnership, because this is like a marriage, right? Like whenever you meet a girl, you're not going to marry her the first day. You're going to want to get to know her, and get to know her over time and see what kind of person she is, and then you pull the trigger, right? Same thing, right? Partnerships, it's like a marriage, and I've been through some that are kind of rough, and I've been through some that are great. So I think that's one of the most important things, that I understand they're the kind of person that they are. And then from there, I think is their skill set, right? Understand, what they can bring to the table, how they can add value, and how I can add value to them too, right? Because it's not just one highway; it's a two-way highway, right? And then and see if there's a way that you can work on a future deal, right? Maybe not the first deal, maybe the second deal or the third deal, right? Yeah. And then if it works out well, then you can work on multiple deals together, Yeah. Those are great points. And I think you led originally with be honest with yourself, right? Even on the person trying to jump over to be active. So if you are honest with yourself and you can list out the characteristics, your trait, your skills, your experience, the things that would apply to the commercial real estate side, once you've done that, it's easier to explain to somebody like Juan or somebody like myself, hey, this is what I'm good at, and these are the value points that I can bring to you. And if you're honest with yourself and they come out, then you're looking for a partner to complement those things, and you're trying to partner on your weaknesses, right? Like like, if somebody's not the greatest at numbers and the other person loves talking to people and the other one doesn't, it's a great opportunity to kind of match those strengths and weaknesses. But if you start to explain, you also say, well, you misrepresent yourself to the other partner, you're going to get found out later. And then it doesn't work for you or them, and end up breaking up in that analogy of being a girl, right?
Dating a girl. Sorry. Dating a girl. Yeah. No, and you hit it right on. It just about, being a straight shooter, right? Just being honest and just saying how it is, and, don't hide anything, right? I mean, we're all in a different position, right? And one thing I always say is, and it's hard to do it, right? I think everybody's is in one shape or form is guilty of doing this, but don't compare yourself to somebody else, right? If somebody else is in a more advanced position than you are currently, that's just because they're in a different chapter of the book, right? You're still on chapter 1 or chapter 2, they're on chapter 7 or 8. But you'll get to chapter 7 or 8, but you got to put in your time, right? Yeah. So you can't compare like, oh, like look where they're at. They're already going to finish the book or whatever. That's irrelevant, right? Don't try to put yourself in a chapter, 10 if you're not there. If you're realistically not there, if you're in chapter 1, that's fine. We all had to open a book, read the title, open a book, and then turn to page 1, right? So it's fine. It's 100% okay. But don't BS your way in trying to make yourself, higher or better or more experienced or whatever, right? Than you really are. Just say how it is, right? And I think people appreciate that, and then also be honest with yourself on what you can bring to the table as far as skill sets, and sometimes that works out well. Where hey, what you mentioned is actually the right thing. That's exactly what my weaknesses are, and then dude, there's a good way that we can work together, man. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I love it. Well, this has been really good. So kind of. Continuing on the conversation of improving ourselves as general partners, getting better at our skill set, and for the passive investors that are listening to this, you should be asking some of these types of questions to your active sponsors. You want to know who they are, so you know who you're investing with. So that's kind of why I want to ask Juan, down this path and series as well, of like. What you're doing today, the types of deals that you're getting into, how you're finding them. I would imagine, some of the larger deals or broker relationships. You're raising larger amounts of capital. You're taking down probably bigger deals. And how are you doing this stuff today? Tell me about your current deal. Maybe the last couple deals you're doing.
Yeah. That's a very good question. As you get into larger deals, it becomes extremely hard to have that direct to owner type of relationship or transaction, right? As you get into larger deals, or you want to get into larger deals, then it's going to be 95%, broker relationship, right? Just to put a number out there as a guess. And so, these are the guys that have built those relationships already, right? So they, like, if you try to cut them off, they're gonna be like, no, I have a broker. There's somebody that I've been, playing golf with for the last, 5-10 years, so it's not going to happen. I don't know who you are. They're going to go back to them. Right. So that's number one. Right. So, there's going to be through broker relationships. As far as, the capital raise, yes, as you go into the larger deals, then usually it's going to be larger capital raise as well. Right. And so what we do is we continue to build relationships with investors and, look at it from a long-term view. Right. And we also work with other guys that that come in as partners. They're able to bring in some equity. We're able to work together as GPs together in a deal. And so that's been a good model for the last couple of deals that we've done. And so I think it works out great. And we're still able to directly overview and oversee and manage the asset and make sure that it's a good performing property and asset for our GP team and our investors and the whole team, all alike, right? So that's what we do, right? On the capital raise side, lately we have also talked to a couple of different institutional partners, a couple of family offices and more of institutional partners that are even overseas. They're taking interest in us. They've reached out to us and just to, see how there's a way that we can work together in the future. And so there's that. Not sure at this point if that's a route that we'll take, because it's it's not all, beautiful and sunshine and butterflies, working with them, because, there's a lot more to it, right? Than them just cutting a check, right? Because they want to be more involved, and there's a lot more, there's a little bit of baggage that comes with it, right? But there's definitely options for the future, right? And we can either continue the common equity, individual investor route, or we can, go with maybe a large one check type of partner. So, there's a couple of different options for the future that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to have options, my friend. And you put in a lot of time, effort, and energy just to kind of establish yourself, as a tenured, successful syndicator, so that you've built up trust, the character's there, your investors, as you're probably coming around full cycle on some of your first ones, you've taken their 50K seed, made it 100, it's maybe become 2, and now they're investing bigger amounts. So your capital raise becomes better, more referrals from other investors, which is always super nice. And then your deals, then the brokers, have worked with you, you've got a proven track record, and it's a little easier to get, a look at the next one before it gets blasted out there, right? So that's it's really great. It's really great. Yeah.
It certainly takes some time, and investors want to know that, at the end of the day, communication is great. That's important. But at the end of the day, investors want to know, hey, how much money am I going to make, and are you paying me my returns? And they want to know what's in it for them, right? That's what the part is most important. It's most important to them, and it's actually most important for us as well, right? Because we know that if we take care of them, then there's potential that they can possibly work with us in the future, or maybe have the referrals like you mentioned earlier, right? So that's far and away the most important process, and part of it for us as well.
So let's talk about a couple things that would help us tactically on both sides. And when I say us, maybe general partners, and then also passive investors say, oh, that's how it happens. When you say the word investor relations or communication with passive investors, how do you communicate with your investors? How often? What do you show them? And then I'll ask you kind of the same thing on the broker side.
Yeah. So for communications, we definitely want to make it at the very minimum one on a monthly basis, right? And so this is, going through financials from the previous month's financials. Not only do we talk about the financials, but we talk about any capex that's going on, and any changes that have been at the property. Maybe the on-site team has changed, or you have a new manager or whatnot, or maybe you're implementing something new to the property, and or some good surprises, right? But in addition to the good surprises, you want to make sure that you have even the bad news, right? Because unfortunately, real estate is real estate, and things aren't always sunshine, and butterflies, right? Every single day, there's going to be surprises that hey, it's not good news, but you have to be able to share it, because and that's where I also put my side of it, and that's where it helps me, because I'm a passive investor as well. And I get to see what I like from the guys, what I don't like from the guys, and I want to make it better for my investors, right? And that's where that communication comes in hand. But in addition to that, if there's situations that we have, for example, we had a fire recently at the very end of August in a building that we have in Phoenix, right? And that's very unfortunate. I mean, nobody saw it coming, but it happened, right? So what can we do about it? We can't just sit there and just wish it wasn't there. We had to take care of it, right? But part of that is the communication and breaking down the news to our investors and saying, hey, look, this is very unfortunate, but this is exactly what happened. And these are the action steps that we're doing to take care of this, right? And it's a long-term process, right? Because you can't just fix it from one day to another, or from 1 month to another. There's insurance involved, and as we all know, the insurance process takes a while, but and because of that, we had to communicate even more often, right? So in addition to the monthly report that we do, we had to do the maybe biweekly communication on the fire, and say, hey, look, this is the process, and it's just a communication for the fire itself, right? And then on top of that, there's communication for especially this year, COVID. Right. So we had communication for COVID, right? So that was, on a biweekly type of thing, especially at the very beginning. Now, when we do our reports, we have a separate section where we talk about COVID updates, right? And on COVID updates, what we talk about is collections. What have we collected month to date, right? How did it compare to last month at the same time? Do we have any cases of COVID-19 at the property level, right? With our staff, our tenant base, or whatnot, and those type of things, right? So you want to be able to communicate as much as possible, because I think the investors want to know. I certainly want to know. And as I said, it helps me be a passive investor. It helps me to be a better operator because I want to know. I know what I like, and I know that investors will like the same thing. So, I think just being honest and being transparent is the best thing to do.
Yeah, it's great. All good insight. Monthly seems to be a norm during special events. Biweekly seems to be a norm. P&L numbers you talked about. Some of I don't know if you do rent rolls or whatever, but visibility to the financials, which is good. And those all seem right on. Good news, bad news. Basically full transparency, so to speak.
Full transparency. And try to make it easy to our investors to see what's going on, right? Because if you write 5, 10 paragraphs, it's going to be really hard for people to go through it and try to understand, right? Because there's a lot of I myself am a visual learner, right? I understand things visually, and so if you have people out there that having to read through all these things, then it becomes too much information, right? And what you don't understand, then you don't necessarily like, and if you don't like it, then it's gonna be less of a chance for you to invest in a future deal, right? So for us, we try to make sure that we have description, we have graphs, and we have this is what's going on month to month, and it's either going up, going down, and people can see that because you can visually see it's a higher bar graph. Then it's like, okay, this is good. We're heading in the right direction, right? Or hey, we're taking a little bit of a dip or whatever, right? But then we'll give it an explanation as to why it's doing better, why it's doing worse, right? So at the end of the day, just try to make it simple, right? Simple and just enough,
Got it. Yeah, I like that. When you're in the professional world, it's a executive summary. there is a long document behind it, and there's a bunch of work that went into it. But in the first page and the upfront, you're like, here's the summary. Here's good, bad, red, green. Okay, I get it. And if you want to dig in, there's more. So
that's exactly what we do, right? We have that. It's a simple, few pages, right? And it's able to easily read, right? And then we also share a link to the financials, right? And the financials show everything, right? Yeah. I mean, everything for the month, all the expenses, all the income, where everything went. So, you have time that you can go through that, but we share all that, right? We're transparent.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Juan. And then the last part, just for the same kind of question series around broker relationships, communication. How did you establish them? And then how do you keep up with them? And what kind of interaction between you and, some of the brokers that you use and they know you, vice versa?
Yeah, that's a very good one. I like to focus on acquisitions, as part of what I do. In addition to asset management and investor relationships, I mean, I do, a lot of different things, but, for you to be able to start all that, you have to have an acquisition, right? And how do you get an acquisition? That's through the brokers. And so that's one of the things that I've actually enjoyed very much is talking to the guys, because when you talk to them, they're talking shop, and usually these guys are straight shooters. I feel like I'm a straight shooter as well, and so you get to talk to you talk shop, right? And so I anytime they send me any kind of opportunity, I try to make sure that I respond to them quickly, right? Again, even if it's our investors, even if it's, any kind of email, I'm like that anyways. I try to respond quickly, as quickly as I can. And when it comes to brokers, it's no different. And so they like to see feedback, right? So if they see a property, go through it as soon as you can and then provide feedback. It doesn't have to work for you. That's fine. And they're not, what they want is your feedback, right? And they want the people to know that you looked at the deal, and if it didn't work for you, that's fine. But I want to know why you didn't like the deal, what you did like, and hey, that's fine. Let's work on the next one, right? But if you ignore it, then you kind of lose that relationship. So, so I keep track of that. Anytime they send me any emails, but I have a spreadsheet as well where I have the brokers from every market that I work with or that I work in. And, every now and then I'll send them a follow-up email. If I haven't heard from them, or if they don't have any deals, and say, hey, hopefully, you've been well, hope the family's been well. Just want to follow up, see if you guys have anything else. Just keep that going. It's very important, man. It's very important to keep that relationship growing. And then I'll share one last example. So, I want to say about a month ago, I was, the brokers actually called me. They texted me and said, hey, you want to get together? You want to go shooting? Go shooting some doves, right? So we're in Texas, so here's a lot of hunting, and that's hunting for doves, right? And so then I was like, sure, let's go dove hunting. We can go do that. And and went out there, and it was actually one of the guys' family ranch, right? So they had one out there. It's actually very close to my family, where my family lives. I went out there, and there was 3 of us, and we're hanging out and, barbecued and those type of things. And a few days later, I mean, we were awarded a deal. We were awarded a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And that's because we're best and final at that point. And they called me over there, and I was like, sure, I'll go make it happen. And it was like a sudden kind of thing, right? It's like, hey, you're going to go do this, in 2 days. I was like, sure. You make time, right? And then, a few days later, we're awarded a deal. I'm not saying it was because of that, but what I will say is that it's very important that you keep those relationships going and keep those relationships strong, because those things mean a lot, man. They mean a lot to me. They mean a lot to them, and you get to build a better bond. So that's one thing I would say is keep that going. Have some beers. They're one of the guys, man. Don't be afraid to talk to them, man. They're one of the guys that like to have a good time, just like we do. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten the call to go dove hunting had you not already had the relationship in place.
Exactly.
You got it because, and then, we're not saying you got awarded because of that, but all of it definitely adds up over time, continuation of a relationship, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, for sure. It's like anything else, keep the relationship going. And, that's what this business is about, man. Real estate is just a byproduct, but it's between you and me. What are we doing right now? We're building a relationship even further, right? And same thing with, it's a relationship driven business, 100%.
Yeah, right on. So Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, is that where you're in today, huh?
Houston, Dallas, Phoenix. We're looking to grow a little bit more in Houston. And so, this is my backyard. I really like Houston. And obviously Texas overall is a fantastic market. And Phoenix definitely has his pluses. Has his positives and pros. So we like these markets. We like Atlanta as well. Haven't been able to break into that market, but we haven't been as active either. So hopefully that's a market that we break into maybe in 2021.
Right on. Well, man, good luck and congratulations. And thank you very much, for all the time you spent with us. So one, if somebody's trying to invest in those markets, they want to reach out to you and trying to get more in your world, what's the best place for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure, man. Thank you for that. People can reach out to me through email, Juan@GenWealthCapital.com. That's Juan@GenWealthCapital.com. And if they wanted to reach out to me through social media, they can find me all over social media as well: Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Send me a connection request, friend request, and I'll be happy to connect. Shoot me an email. Give me a call. 713-591-2523. If they want to give me a call, and I'm happy to talk shop and see if there's any ways that we can work together in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, right on. Is there anything we didn't talk about today, Juan? Anything I didn't ask about that you were excited to share, or just any other last parting words? Take as much time as you would like, if there are.
I think we covered a lot of different things. I don't have anything that sticks out. I'm approachable. That's what I would say to people out there. I'm approachable. I'm always happy to, just like I'm talking to you right now. I could keep going on, man. I don't know if you noticed, but I'll keep going because I'm a talker, man. So, I'm happy to talk to anybody. Questions big or small. Let's get on the phone and let's chat.
All right, man. Thank you so much for your time today, Juan. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure learning from you, and then also being able to share some of the knowledge with others. And it's we're probably like end of October, beginning of November now, and the show will probably come out. So if you're listening, you should be hearing Christmas music somewhere right around there. And we're excited to have you, brother.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Around Christmas time. Yeah.
Yep.
My pleasure, Abel. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I look forward to continue to build our relationship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm your host, Abel Pacheco at the 5 Talents Podcast. And if you have questions about real estate, investing, commercial, and syndication, whether it's active or passively, reach out to me at 5tcre.com, and look forward to talking. And if you've heard something that was valuable today, which I believe you did, there was more than a few nuggets and a couple pages of notes that I took. Leave us a review, subscribe, rate, and review, and then reach out to Juan directly. He would love to chat with you. So thank you very much for the 5 Talents Podcast. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Juan. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents Podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who follow their dreams and achieve massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents podcast.